Have you ever heard a thought disappear? Not when it arrives, bright, loud, restless, but the moment it unhooks itself and vanishes into stillness, like a ripple forgetting it was ever water. It's quieter than breath, softer than silk brushing skin, but when you hear it, truly hear it, you'll know something ancient, something vast has touched the edge of your awareness, and you're not quite the same. Tonight, I invite you into that space, not to think, not to try, but to float, to drift into stories that don't explain, but reveal, not with logic, but with presence. Stories that hum beneath the surface, like koi gliding through moonlit water. These are Zen stories, old as wind through bamboo, gentle as tea poured at twilight. Tales whispered from mountain tops and temple stones, not to teach you anything, but to remind you of what you already know deep down, before names, before noise. As you listen, you may feel something loosening, a quiet inside you, blooming. Not sleep exactly, but the soft surrender that leads to it. So let your body settle, let your mind grow drowsy, like dusk stretching its limbs across the sky. There's nowhere to go, nothing to solve, only stories, gentle ones, that carry you like a leaf on a slow-moving river. Past lantern-lit paths, past the hush of pine forests, into the secret places only dreams remember. There is no destination, only this, one breath, one moment, unfolding like petals in the dark. So close your eyes and let the night begin.
The Quiet Garden. In a small, ancient village nestled between gentle, rolling hills that seemed to cradle the sky itself, there was a garden unlike any other, a secret held softly between the roots of old cedar trees and the quiet whisper of jasmine flowers. The garden's gate was carved from weathered cedar, its wood smooth and worn by decades of wind, rain, and the touch of countless hands. It stood slightly ajar, inviting the curious and the weary alike into a world that seemed to exist just beyond the ordinary flow of time. An old gardener named Aiko lived beside this garden, her house a simple wooden cottage framed by creeping ivy and moss that glistened with morning dew. Each day before dawn had fully stretched her rosy fingers across the sky. Aiko rose and stepped into the garden. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as though she was walking a sacred path rather than merely tending plants. Her hands, gentle and knowing, brushed lightly over fern fronds unfurling like ancient scrolls, moss soft as velvet, and petals that nodded as if they held secrets spoken only in the language of the wind. The garden was a mosaic of greens, soft blues and pale pinks, a living poem of earth and air. It was a place where the noisy bustle of the world outside fell away, replaced by the gentle music of dripping dew, rustling leaves, and the distant soft call of birds awakening to the day. Aiko believed the garden was more than just a collection of plants. It was a sanctuary, a quiet sanctuary where the restless heart could find rest and the noisy mind could find silence. It was a place to slow down, to listen not only to nature's songs but to the silence between those songs, the quiet spaces where true understanding blooms. One misty morning, just as the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the leaves like golden threads, a young man came to the garden's gate. His shoulders were heavy with the burdens of many restless thoughts and sleepless nights. The tension in his face softened the moment he stepped through the gate, as if the garden itself exhaled a welcome that seeped deep into his bones. Aiko met him with a gentle smile, her eyes bright with quiet kindness. She motioned for him to walk slowly with her among the plants, to feel the earth beneath their feet and the coolness of the morning air against their skin. "Why does this garden feel so still?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, touched with wonder. Aiko led him down a narrow stone path to the heart of the garden, where a small pond lay nestled like a secret. Its surface was smooth and glassy, reflecting the sky and the branches of the whispering trees overhead. Tiny ripples flickered across the water, stirred by a soft breeze that carried the scent of jasmine and damp earth. "The garden listens," she said softly, kneeling beside the pond, "not with ears, but with presence. It does not hurry or rush. It simply is." The young man crouched beside her, gazing into the clear water. He saw his own reflection shimmer and change with every ripple, a delicate dance between stillness and movement. "Is that why I feel calmer here?" he asked, the tension in his voice easing as he spoke. "Yes," Aiko replied gently, "because here you are invited to be still, to breathe deeply, to watch without judgment, and to rest." They sat together by the pond, the world quiet except for the soft rustling of leaves and the faint drip of dew falling from the branches. The air was cool and fragrant, and the calm seemed to settle around them like a soft blanket. "The garden teaches us patience," Aiko said, her voice barely above the breeze. "It teaches us about holding space for growth, even when that growth is slow or unseen." The young man thought of his own mind, often racing ahead like a restless river, filled with worries and desires. Here, in the garden's quiet embrace, he felt a different rhythm, one of gentle unfolding and quiet waiting. "Can I learn to be like this garden?" he asked, looking up at her with hopeful eyes. Aiko smiled, the lines of her face softening in the morning light. "Every day is a chance to plant stillness," she said, "even in the smallest moments, like a seed resting quietly beneath the soil, waiting for the right time to grow." She reached out to touch a tender shoot just emerging from the earth, its tiny leaves unfolding slowly, hesitantly. "Growth is not always visible," she continued. "Sometimes it is happening deep below the surface, in places we cannot see. And sometimes it is simply the act of waiting, patient, unhurried, open to whatever may come." The young man breathed in the cool, fresh air again, feeling the softness of the moss beneath his hands and the subtle warmth of the sun beginning to rise. A quiet hope stirred in his chest, a seedling of peace growing stronger with each gentle moment. When the sun climbed higher and spilled golden light across the garden, warming the petals and leaves, the young man rose to leave. As he walked back through the gate, the garden seemed to breathe with him. Its quiet blessing carried softly on the breeze. And as he disappeared down the path toward the village, a question lingered in the air like a whispered invitation. What might grow in the quiet spaces you hold? The whispering bamboo grove. Beyond the mountains where the clouds seem to drift like soft silk, there lies a village wrapped in the quiet breath of dawn. It is a place where time moves differently, not faster, not slower, but as if it were simply listening. Near this village, a bamboo grove rises tall and slender, its stalks swaying with a voice only the stillest hearts can hear. An elderly woman named Hana lived on the edge of this grove. Her small wooden house smelled of cedar and jasmine tea. Every morning she would step outside as the sun stretched its fingers across the sky and walk slowly beneath the bamboo, letting the shafts of light sift through the green canopy above like scattered emerald jewels. She called it her sanctuary. The bamboo, with its graceful boughs and whispers, seemed to welcome her. The leaves would tremble gently, and the hollow stalks would sing soft songs when the wind passed through. Hana's days were simple. She tended her garden, brewed tea, and listened, not just to the sounds, but to the spaces between them, the silence that breathed life into every moment. One morning, as the mist curled low over the earth like a pale river, Hana found a young traveller resting beneath a great bamboo stalk. His eyes were heavy with fatigue and questions. He looked up as she approached, and she smiled kindly. "Come," she said softly. "Walk with me." Together they moved slowly through the grove, the bamboo whispering around them like a secret language. "Why do you listen to the bamboo?" the traveller asked. Hana paused, looking up at the slender stalks bending like dancers in the morning light. "Because the bamboo teaches us how to live," she replied. "How so?" he pressed, curiosity threading through his tired voice. "The bamboo bends with the wind, but it does not break," Hana said. "It yields, and in yielding, it finds strength. It whispers not to shout and sways not to fall. It listens to the world, and in listening, it grows." The traveller looked doubtful but said nothing. They continued walking, and soon the sun began to burn away the mist, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. Hana stopped beside a small clearing where a single bamboo stalk stood taller than the rest, its leaves shimmering gold in the sunlight. "See this one?" she asked. "It has weathered many storms. Its bark is scarred and worn, but it still reaches skyward." The traveller ran his fingers along the rough stalk. "What keeps it standing?" he asked. "Quiet courage," Hana whispered, "and the wisdom to bow when the winds roar." They sat together on a mossy stone. The traveller closed his eyes, breathing deeply the cool, fragrant air. Minutes passed like droplets falling into a still pond. When he opened his eyes, the bamboo grove seemed to hum with a gentle energy, as if the very earth beneath them was alive with whispered stories. "Will the bamboo always be here?" the traveller asked softly. Hana smiled, her gaze steady. "The bamboo lives in the space between wind and stillness," she said. "It teaches us that strength is not in resistance, but in embracing the flow. So long as we remember to listen, the bamboo song will never end." The traveller looked out at the grove, feeling the quiet wisdom settle deep within him. As the sun climbed higher, he rose to leave, carrying with him a newfound sense of peace. And somewhere, in the gentle rustling of bamboo leaves, a question lingered. What might you learn if you listened, not to words, but to the whispers beneath them? The bell beyond sound. In a forgotten valley nestled between folded hills and whispering ridges, where clouds often touched the earth and stayed for tea, there stood a humble temple. No grand gate, no golden spires, only a low roof cradled by moss, and wooden walls warmed by years of morning sun and gentle rain. This was the temple of silent pines, where the wind moved slow, as if it too had something to learn. At the heart of the temple courtyard, hanging beneath an arched beam of blackened cedar, was a bell. Not just any bell, this one was ancient, perhaps older than the trees around it. Its surface bore the faded etchings of lotus petals and nameless symbols, worn soft by 1,000 seasons of wind and hands. Each morning before the sun rose fully over the ridge, a young monk named Tenzin would step quietly across the dew-dark stones, his robes brushing the air like a whisper, and strike the bell once. Only once. The sound would rise, slowly at first, like breath gathering, and then bloom, golden and round, spreading into the still air like ripples through a bowl of water, left undisturbed overnight. And in that single note, the valley listened. Birds paused mid-song. Leaves stilled. Even the river, which ran not far from the temple's edge, seemed to hush its burble. The villagers in nearby hamlets often paused whatever they were doing, chopping wood, pouring tea, tying bundles of herbs, and turned their ears slightly, not quite knowing why. Tenzin too would listen. He would lower the wooden striker with reverence, return it to its resting place beside the bell, and remain there, motionless. His eyes would close, his chest would soften, and he would wait, not for the sound, but for what came after it. You see, many months ago, on his first winter in the temple, Master Gendo had told him, "The bell's sound is not what you hear, Tenzin. It is what remains after the hearing ends." At the time, the young monk had bowed deeply and whispered, "Yes, Master," as all students do when the lesson is too large to carry all at once. But he did not yet understand. And so each day he struck the bell, and each day he listened, not just with his ears, but with his body, with his breath, with his wondering. And yet, understanding did not come. Weeks became months. The trees turned their colors and let them go. The temple fox disappeared for a while and returned with thinner fur. Rain soaked the stone paths into mirrors, and the scent of wood smoke filled the halls. Still, the bell rang. Still, Tenzin listened, and still the silence after felt just empty. Not full, as Master Gendo had hinted. Not wholly, until one morning. It was late spring. A fog lay heavy in the valley, so thick that the temple's outer garden vanished into pale nothingness. The stones beneath Tenzin's feet were slick with mist, and his breath left no trace in. The chilled air. He bowed to the bell, raised the striker, and let it fall, gently, with the weight of surrender. But the sound did not rise as before. It seemed to vanish before it fully formed, swallowed by the fog, absorbed by the quiet. No echo, no lingering hum, just absence. Tenzin stood longer than usual, confusion softening into stillness. A different kind of listening began to grow in him, one that had nothing to do with ears. And then something in him moved, not a thought, not an idea, just a quiet tug behind the heart. He turned and walked, past the moss garden, past the stone lantern smudged with lichen, down a path he rarely took, the one that curved behind the temple into a part of the forest where the light changed direction and time seemed to thin. He walked without aim, no sandals, no staff, just silence at his back, and that same quiet question curled gently in his chest. Hours may have passed, or none at all. Eventually the path dissolved into a grove of slender birch trees, and there, half hidden among ferns and moss, was a pond, small, oval, still as breath held in wonder. No frogs, no wind, no falling leaves, just the water holding the sky like a memory. Tenzin sat on a smooth rock beside it, and for the first time in many moons he did not try to understand. He simply was. Birdsong returned in the far distance. A drop of water fell from a leaf overhead and disappeared into the pond without a sound. And in that moment, somewhere between presence and forgetting, he felt it. The bell, still ringing, not in the air, not in his ears, but in the spaciousness inside him. It had never stopped. It had only become quieter than sound, wide as sky, deep as sleep. The silence that remained was not empty. It was listening, and Tenzin, he was not listening to it. He was part of it. He breathed out slowly, the exhale longer than the inhale, and felt something loosen inside. Some old knot of striving or searching, untied by stillness itself. When he returned to the temple, Master Gendo was sweeping the courtyard with a straw broom, his movements slow and even. He did not look up, but after a moment he spoke. "You heard it?" And Tenzin nodded, though no words rose. From that day on, he struck the bell the same way. Once, gently, but his listening had changed. He no longer waited for the sound to end. He waited for the silence to arrive, and within it he found not answers but presence, not knowledge but knowing. And so, if ever you find yourself in a quiet valley on a mist-wrapped morning, and you hear a bell that seems not to ring but to ripple through your bones, pause and listen, not just with your ears, but with the space between your thoughts. You may find yourself not hearing, but being heard. And you may wonder, gently, what have I been missing beneath all the noise? The lantern on the mountain path. Far beyond the familiar hum of the village, where the air thins and the world widens into quiet vastness, there lies a mountain path that twists and turns beneath towering ancient pines and moss-covered stones. Here the night moves slowly, draped in velvety darkness, where only the faintest glow dares to ripple through the shadows. On this path walks an old traveller named Koji. He carries a lantern, not bright, not brash, but small, steady, a gentle glow that breathes warmth into the cool night air. Its light is soft, trembling like a quiet heartbeat, casting long, wavering shadows that dance and mingle with the ancient trees. Koji's footsteps are deliberate, slow as the steady drip of water off a leaf. Each step seems to carry not just his body, but the weight and lightness of many years, of many journeys both outside and within. The scent of pine is thick and soothing, mixed with the damp earth and the faint, sweet hint of wildflowers sleeping beneath the dark. Somewhere nearby a brook hums its age-old lullaby, tumbling over smooth stones polished by time. The night air tastes cool on Koji's tongue, sharp with the clarity of stars shining above like silent candles scattered across the black silk of the sky. At a gentle bend in the path where the trees open slightly to reveal a small clearing bathed in silver moonlight, Koji pauses. He lowers the lantern, resting it softly on a mossy stone, careful not to disturb the delicate peace around him. Sitting beside it, he closes his eyes and draws the night into his breath, the coolness of air flowing in, the warmth flowing out. In the quiet of this moment, memories rise slowly like mist. He remembers the words of his teacher, spoken long ago beneath a sky just like this one. The lantern's light does not banish the darkness. It only reveals the path for those who choose to walk it. The simplicity of these words is a kind of gentle mystery. The darkness is not an enemy to be defeated, but a companion to be understood. The light is not a weapon, but a guide, soft, humble, persistent. Opening his eyes, Koji gazes down the shadowed trail. The path curves away, disappearing between the thick trunks of ancient pines. The lantern's flame flickers quietly, trembling with the breeze that barely stirs the air. He wonders, is the path truly illuminated by this lantern? Or has the light always been inside the traveller's heart, waiting to be seen? With a slow breath, Koji stands and resumes his walk. The lantern swings gently at his side, its glow steady but modest. The forest breathes with him, the crunch of dry needles underfoot, the soft rustling of unseen creatures in the brush, the distant call of an owl, all become part of a gentle symphony. His own breath is a slow wave rising and falling, a reminder of life flowing steadily through stillness. Halfway along the path, Koji notices a young woman seated on a fallen log, her eyes closed in calm repose. Her face holds a serene quiet that draws him near. She opens her eyes when he approaches, their deep brown depths reflecting the lantern's glow. "Why do you carry the lantern?" she asks softly. "To find my way," Koji answers. "But the path is dark," she says, "and the light seems so small." Koji smiles with the warmth of understanding. It is enough. She looks at him thoughtfully, as if weighing the truth of this simple statement. "Sometimes," Koji continues, "the smallest light holds the deepest truth." They sit together in silence, the forest cradling them in its tender embrace. As moments stretch, the woman's expression changes, softening, opening. When she rises to continue, Koji notices a new light in her eyes, a quiet glow that seems to come not from the lantern, but from within. Together they walk the last stretch toward the mountain's peak, where the sky widens like a great ocean overhead. Stars spill across the night in endless constellations, their silver shimmer washing over rocks and trees, bathing the world in ancient light. Koji places the lantern down and stands quietly, feeling the vast stillness settle deep inside him. In this great silence, he understands. The path was never truly dark. The light was never truly small. The path waits for the traveller's steps. The light waits in the traveller's heart. The lantern's glow becomes a question, flickering gently in the night. When the world fades to shadow, where does your light come from? When all else is silent, what guides your way? The mountain holds no answers, only space. Space to rest, to wonder, to simply be. And in this space, the traveller finds a calm deeper than words, a knowing quieter than thought. So, when you feel lost in the dark, remember the mountain path. Remember the gentle glow that need not banish night, only reveal the next step. And listen for the light within you, always waiting to be seen.
And now, as the last light of day softly fades beyond the horizon, we return once more to the quiet question that has traveled gently with you through these stories. What might you hear if you simply listen? Not just with your ears, but with your whole being, to the stillness within and to the subtle whispers of the world around you. In this vast silence, wrapped in the soft embrace of night, there is a calm that waits patiently, a calm that asks nothing, yet offers everything: peace, rest, and the tender unfolding of dreams. The stories you have heard are like gentle ripples on a quiet pond, each one carrying a thread of that quiet mystery, weaving together a tapestry of stillness and insight. Let these threads weave themselves now into the fabric of your sleep, guiding you deeper, ever deeper, into a place where the mind can rest, the heart can soften, and the soul can drift freely on the currents of peace. Thank you for sharing this moment, this journey, this quiet space. If you feel called to return, to explore more whispers of wisdom and calm, I invite you to subscribe, so that you may find your way back whenever you need. For now, allow your breath to slow, your muscles to release, and your mind to settle like gentle snowfall on a silent forest floor. Sleep well, dear traveler, cradled by the stillness that surrounds you, held safe by the quiet mystery that gently unfolds with every breath. Good night.